Welcome back to the Stompers Broadcast Network. I'm Kiran Costa, joined by Amy Gutierrez, known as Amy G. Thanks so much for coming out here to the Stompers game and joining us here in the booth.
It is my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a fun environment, vibe, and the people are awesome.
It really is, and you clearly brought a little good luck. The Stompers are hitting all of a sudden. It's a 4-4 game here in the top of the third inning, and you're making a little bit of history. You're the first Emmy winner to join us in the booth.
Oh.
You're the first World Series winner to join us in the booth.
Gosh.
We do have New York Times best-selling writer. There was a book about the Stompers back in 2017.
You can't have it all.
You
can't have
take
it all.
2 out of 3.
Yeah,
But
that sounds good.
yeah, let's start there with the book. You've written 4 books now in the Smarty Marty series. How did you sort of get started doing that?
Yeah, actually, I didn't look for it at all. It came to me, and that was literally because of how successful the Giants had been from 2010 and then 2012 at the time. And a local boutique publisher in Petaluma, where I'm from, right, go Sonoma County, came to me and said, would you be interested in writing a book, a children's book for baseball, because there aren't that many out there. And so I thought he was crazy. I was like, no, I would not. And then I think you heard before the game, my grandmother passed that same year, and I had been talking to her about it. She said, I really think you need to do this. And that was the impetus. My grandmother was a huge baseball fan, albeit a Dodgers fan, but that's okay. We forgive her. And so I went on to create Smarty Marty, and I at first I combined a bunch of characteristics that I thought were important, right, about covering baseball, which was knowing how to score and being intelligent and talking the lingo. And so I put all of that into it, and then I thought there's this other element that I see every day at the ballpark, and that's kids with their face in their phones, and they're not watching, they're not engaged, or watching an iPad at a baseball game. I said, you know what? We're going to make her little brother not like it, and we're going to teach him how to score, and he's going to learn how you love baseball. It's about scoring baseball.
Not enough people definitely score the game anymore.
I don't know how you don't.
I know.
It's literally your legend. It's the story of the game, and then you have that, especially in your position, Kiran, as a broadcaster, to look back at that last game that they had, or the game they made history. I mean, to have a scorecard of Matt Cain's perfect game, it's pretty cool.
I know you talk so much about scoring games, and we'll go back to the book in a little bit, but Matt Cain's perfect game has to stand out as your favorite scorebook, but any other ones stand out to you in your long time with San Francisco?
Absolutely, and most people assume the perfect game is my favorite memory, and it's very high up there. But once you cover 3 World Series, I covered 2 no-hitters for Tim Lincecum. But the first milestone moment I covered was in 2009, and it was a Jonathan Sanchez no-hitter. And it's one of the best stories as a journalist I could have ever asked for, that he was struggling, and he was on the chopping block to be traded, and turned it around in one game. And it was his no-hitter, and it just so happened that his father was visiting from Puerto Rico and had never seen his son play in a Major League Baseball game, and it was that night. And his career completely turned around. He was a huge part of the 2010 World Series win. So that's my favorite moment.
You saw that play right there.
I did.
I think we have to give him an air in my scorebook.
I agree. You got to run up on that kid.
Yeah. Especially on this infield grass. So Jaden Harper, the new pitcher, has gone hit-by-pitch error, and Walnut Creek is threatening to grab the lead right back. But here in the broadcast booth, we're joined by Amy G, and you talked there about how, I mean, you are a journalist, you're covering the game, but it's so much more than that. It's finding the story that's more than just the baseball field. You talked about that with Sanchez. Any other ones in your career, those stories that you really look back on now as your favorite ones?
I mean, there's so many, especially in that 2010 series where the Giants ended up seeming to have a knack for catching lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
For the one that comes to me first is Cody Ross, right? Like, he had been put on waivers, and Brian Sabian's like, you know what? I think this guy's got something. And you'll see that storyline throughout 10, 12, and 14, and having belief and faith in somebody who no one else did. Ishikawa in 2012, right? I get them; they kind of melt together. But like
so many World Series you covered,
right,
you can't even remember which one it was.
Because 14 was all about Madison Bumgarner,
of course.
But 12 was Ishikawa and Scutaro and these people who like Colorado let Scutaro go. The Giants saw something in him, so I think that's what stands out to me as a journalist and just like the underdog. I love a great underdog story. Oop.
That's a check swing chopper to Boardman. He goes to second. The relay is not in time. So that sets up Walnut Creek runners at the corners on the fielder's choice. And we can, I guess, just one that I have for you. I mean, I love being in this booth, but you were at the field in a Game 7 of the World Series situation. There's the tying run at third base. I mean, have you been in a stadium more electric than that moment in Kauffman?
I'm going to tell you how exciting that moment was for me. I was actually in like the underbelly of Kauffman Stadium trying, because all of the reporters have to line up. When it gets close to being over,
exactly.
You get in line, right? And you can't see the game. Depending on the stadium, there were no TVs, there was no reception. And so we were trying to find out. There's one guy who had like 2 bars, and he was calling out the play, but we were a little delayed. And so I never saw it in person, the final play. I've seen multiple replays, but that's where you are as a reporter in like the biggest moment of the biggest game.
I mean,
you're in the tunnel, you can't see anything.
Yeah, Game 7 of the World Series. I mean, that place, even from the underbelly of the stadium, when Alex Gordon hit that triple, that place, stadium was going to fall in on you.
And I was on the other side of it, right?
Exactly.
So I went down thinking, I'm going to interview another World Series championship team. And then when you hear that roar, you're like, what happened? And so we were waiting for the guy with the bars to tell us what happened.
We've gotten a little bit off track. You are here to talk about your book, and you talk about your grandmother. She was really your inspiration to write it, and she passed away. What does it mean to you to see the book have so much success?
You know what? It's so wonderful to feel like everybody who purchases one of my books, reads the books, checks it out at a library, right, gets to know a little piece of my grandma. It's like I was able to, in my way, immortalize her, and that's how special she was to me. So she was my favorite person on the planet, and she loved to talk ball. She's of a generation born in 1923. Like, you want to talk about where Smarty Marty's gone and what Smarty Marty has faced adversity-wise, think about my grandmother, who couldn't even play sports and just loved this game, and she could challenge any fella.
A check back on first base, and Matt's favorite little roar from the crowd. We play here in the top of inning number 3, a tied game at 4. Walnut Creek has runners at the corners with 1 out. And Amy, well, we can talk about the book, but 8 Emmys, a lot of those with Kruk and Kipe. We can talk about first what you've done. What do those accomplishments mean to you?
It's weird because as a kid I was an athlete, and you got a trophy if you did well in your season. It's a little tougher when you get older. You don't get those kind of accolades, and so to receive those in the manner that we did, like best broadcast, made me feel like I had a lot of value to add to Kruk and Kipe, because that was certainly when I first started a situation I felt, am I worthy of being here, and how do I fit in? And it took a few years before fans accepted me with them, and it took a World Series championship to know that I could stick it out as well. But they mean a lot to me. They are in my closet. Well, 6 of them are, and then I use 2 as bookmarks. So I do keep a little spot to remember what I've accomplished in our house, and they're very, very special.
The bases are loaded here for Walnut Creek, but as I've mentioned, we're joined by Amy G here on the broadcast for a few more outs at the very least, and it really is that the people make the place, and what do Kruk and Kipe, especially such a storied broadcast team as them, what did it mean to you to get to work with them and then to win some awards with them too?
They became my extended family. I think that's the best way to describe it. They did not need to add me to this broadcast. Those 2 can carry any broadcast. They're future Hall of Famers. And so I knew what an opportunity it was to get this position, and I knew I needed to have them in my corner to keep it. And so I think what I appreciate most is they never expected me to be anything but me, and I could immediately feel like I could be myself. If I wasn't sure about something, I could ask questions. They weren't going to shun me. So, and you should know that, or why don't you know that? I mean, Mike Krukow is probably the best educator as an analyst in Major League Baseball, and no doubt about it, every single game I covered over 13 seasons, so you can do the math because you're young and you like that stuff. I learned something from Mike Krukow that and that's what's so lovely about baseball. It's such a beautiful game because there's always something that you're like, well, I've never seen that before.
2-2. He goes around, full swing, and now we have a nice little bases loaded, 2-out situation. The Stompers trying to keep this game tied with a new arm on the mound.
I don't know your players, but like that's such a huge out with bases loaded, and you need that second out. You need it, and if you can get it yourself, it's such a confidence boost for the pitcher and a momentum shifter.
Now he'll attack Sam Yankins left on left. And misses low. Great block by Sepulveda there. The Stompers, we've coined it the Stomper Special. It feels like they score about half their runs on a ball getting past the catcher with the runner on third base.
That's funny.
But since you've come up here, it's nothing but 2-out extra base hits. I think Zach Pace will put you on the payroll.
I'm all about
stay
the
up
money
here,
hit, so that's what I like to see.
So many years in San Francisco, we've shared a couple memories, but I guess outside of winning the World Series, any relationships you've built with players, so many have come and gone, obviously, over the years.
It's so funny because I keep now getting invited to everybody's retirement party, right? Brandon Crawford was the last one, and I went to Buster Posey's, and now Buster's the president of Baseball Ops. So you see them go, and then you kind of see several cycle back in, which has been really nice. And I also broadcast with the River Cats, the AAA affiliate for the Giants, and that's a really fun place to be, whether a player that I know, maybe he's, been DFA'd through his career and he's trying to make it back with another team. I've encountered so many reunions through this game at this point in my career. It's wonderful. And I kind of always had a rule, though, while I covered the team, the players especially, but the coaching staff, they were colleagues, they weren't friends. We didn't really socialize outside of something that we had to be at for the Giants, but I gave myself the luxury of once they retire, I get to be their friend. So all these guys that I covered, now I really, huge!
2 extra base hits, they get out of
jam.
The bases loaded jam. You think you could stick around for 3 more outs with us? Everything's going right.
No, I'm making everything right. Sure, no problem.
Thank you so much, Amy. We'll be right back with more Amy G and the bottom of the third inning. We're still tied at 4. I'm Kiran Costa, still joined by Amy G here for the bottom of inning number 3. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time. And everyone watching is probably a Giants fan, but I'm not a Giants fan. I have one for you. Who's your favorite player you got to cover as an opposing player coming to Oracle or hitting the road? AT&T, sorry.
That is, well, it's Oracle now.
It's Oracle
but it was
now,
AT&T,
but it must have been
it was also
AT&T.
SBC. I mean, it's been lots of names, right? Great question. Jeez. It's funny because I always loved Andrew McCutcheon on the Pirates, and then he became a Giant, and I was like, right on. And the same with Scutero. Like, I covered him as an A, and then he became a Giant, and I was like, this is great. So, yeah, those two come to mind. A Bryce Harper, I got to witness a battle between him and Hunter Strickland where I was like, what is actually happening right now? Because the entire team came out of the dugout, and it was like a stampede. But yeah, so that's what I would say. A
lot of good names there, and you're a sideline reporter. You know more about baseball than probably this whole booth combined. You've probably forgotten more about baseball than this whole booth combined.
Older than all of you combined, that's for sure. So let's say why.
We can talk a little bit about this Stomper season.
Yeah.
They're the best pitching staff in the league, north or south. They're the only team with a sub-3 team ERA.
Wow. Nice.
The next closest in the CCL North is a 4.1.
Oh,
but they struggle mightily on the offensive side of the ball, as that one's fouled back and situational hitting. I mean that one trickles down from the big leagues.
Absolutely. I mean, situational hitting it's called that for a reason. And when you're in a good stretch, that's what you see come to life, right? Those big money clutch hits and or things just work your way, whether it's a little dribbler or a CNI ground ball. That's when things are going right. So I'm interested to analyze this inning with you, and I'll take some of my analyst experience from the River Cats, and I'm not going to know anybody's name yet, so hopefully the fans will forgive me.
I'll help you out. This is Paul Lazul batting. He'll face a 3-2 pitch and pop it up down the third baseline, up and out of play. And one thing that our coaching staff does, their biggest thing, is quality at-bats.
Absolutely.
They don't care if the at-bat ends in a strikeout. If you see more than 8 pitches, it's a quality at-bat. You move your runners, it's a quality at-bat.
And he's gotten a full count, so that's a great point, because not only is it great getting reps, right, at the plate, and the longer you're out there able to see what a pitcher actually has, what's in his arsenal, and then you're less able to be fooled because you know what he's got. You can expect what's coming. But it's great intel to bring back to your dugout, and they go back and they share that information. What's he got? What's he on? Is he able to locate his fastball today? So I would say right now, at a full count, he's getting a lot of pitches here, and he's on it. He's just missing it. It's a great eye, and the patience there. A quality at AB is also a walk,
Exactly.
I mean, to show that kind of discipline, and that tires out your pitcher. You got your dugout saw a lot of pitches. You feel confident. You're on base. Things start to shift your way.
Yeah, 9 pitches for Paul Lazul to draw that leadoff walk. So now 3 of the last 4 Stompers have reached. And another one that's gotten Sonoma now over the past couple years is age. And I mean, that's one that really plays at just about every level of baseball. The Stompers are freshmen, sophomores, and they're playing pitchers, D1 pitchers that have played 2-3 years at that level. And I feel like maybe that's an early season adjustment period. It's younger JUCO guys playing against D1 arms, but they're finding a way.
Well, I think you're going to see, like, throughout the journey of a ball player, and these guys obviously are hoping to get drafted, right? And so what they're going to find is this is going to happen all over again. So when you're the young ones, those first, second-year kids in college, and you now the jump from high school to college is huge. And so that's what they're experiencing right now. And then the jump from AA to the big leagues is huge. It's huge. If you perform well in the AA level, you have a very good shot. AAA, for some reason, isn't as difficult of a level. There's a lot more confidence at that level. But so you see these gaps. So this is super normal for you guys to be in this cycle right now. And what they have to get tough on is the mental side and know this is part of the process. And if these guys went through it in high school too. I bet a lot of them were freshmen that made their varsity team and didn't see any playing time that first year.
Exactly.
And you stick it out and you practice and you ask questions and you get a mentor and you tell the coach yes to everything. And that's what gets you through a tough season when you may have been the best player in your high school and you're, hitting ninth on this team or whatever. That is how the world rolls. And the more you stick it out, the more you learn. And you might learn that it's not for you. People don't realize the journey in baseball. They don't realize the grind and the grit that it takes. That they see it at a big league level in the millions of dollars. That is not happening right here, right?
Shannon, a big swing and a miss to get to 2-2. And
that high fastball just looked like a big watermelon for him.
Even in other sports, like we saw the NBA draft and the NHL draft over the past week, those are players that are drafted out of college and then are going to be starting on their teams next year. Another one in Major League Baseball, you cover AAA. Even to get to AAA is a wild accomplishment for a baseball player.
It takes several years, and baseball's really the only sport that commands that. So that is part of what's so beautiful about this game is that you go back to your mom and dad drove you to every single practice and watched your uniform every night and made sure you had an extra lunch for practice, and then they drove 3 hours to your playoff game, in Fresno at 114 degrees. So it's this long communal familial journey. And one of my favorite moments as a reporter was when the first round draft pick would come to the park and walk through up into the field for the first time. And I watched him, but then I immediately turned to his parents because it's just as much their accomplishment. The money they put in and the time that they put in. And, you're thinking about folks here in Sonoma who are housing these players, the community it takes to make it to the bigs. And they don't forget these folks when they make it. They don't forget it.
You told the story for us. Brady Shannon, the guy that just hit. He's from Youngstown, Ohio. Out of high school, he had some looks from MLB teams. He went down to UCF down in Florida, was a two-way athlete there, and now this past season got to go home. He plays at Youngstown State, and his parents actually came from Ohio to watch him this week.
I met his dad because if I have this right, his grandfather, Coach Dave Dravecki in high school.
Yep.
Yeah, football. Yeah, I got the story. I scooped you.
I know. You scooped me on this broadcast.
See, I'm a veteran.
Exactly. So the Crawdads go to the bullpen, and now McCann Libby is brought up in a situation where he now has to act as a leadoff hitter. He has to be the guy to now see 9 pitches and show everyone in that dugout what the new arm has.
Yeah. Well, you've got a tie game, so I love that when it's a tie game, except when it's tied in the 9th. So you just treat it like it's a brand new game. Go up there and be patient. I think that's what a lot of these younger players lack. I mean, MLB players lack patience at the plate, right? It's so hard to be patient because when they look good, they look so good. But you got to learn the pitcher first.
Exactly. I guess we have a little break in the action here for the Giants fans watching. They're on an 88-win pace. Reminds you of 2014. They make a midseason edition. Rafael Devers reminds you of the Hunter Pence midseason edition. You think?
Yeah. Hunter Pence was 12.
Hunter Pence was 12, but
12.
I mean, they're pulling from all the different World Series winning years.
I think you're seeing Buster kind of learn from his experiences being on those teams and realizing that it's going to take a sacrifice of a couple of really good pitchers to get that big bat in your lineup. And it's that, Kyle Harrison, that was sad to see him go, and he was Giants' #1 prospect. But that is also part of the game. It's part of what you have to be so mentally tough because you want to be attached and you want to have camaraderie, but at any moment you could go. And it's actually a compliment to Kyle Harrison that he was in that trade, and it's probably going to come back to the Giants at some point and haunt them, when Kyle Harrison comes back and pitches against them. But those are the gambles, the risks that you want to see a GM or the president of baseball ops start to take, because that's a sign they think something's cooking here. And although they have, I feel they've really struggled since Devers joined the team. So I always, as a reporter and more of a human interest side of the game, I'm curious if, when that connection's going to happen, because I don't think it totally has. And Deffer does his interviews in Spanish, and so sometimes when there's a language barrier, that takes a minute to fit in and really feel the vibe. So hopefully they turn it around. I think they lost today.
They lost today in Chicago.
1-0, right?
1-0.
Yeah, those are the tough ones. Like when you get totally blown out. That was an interesting story from 2014 World Series. Was Game 6? The Kansas City totally blew out the Giants, and I was like so stressed, like as if I was playing. Ooh,
Libby hits one off the glove of the third baseman. Lazul goes to second base, and our official score in the booth. What do you have for us?
An absolute error.
An error goes against DeFazio.
Yes, it is a bad hop for sure, but I don't find it was too hot to handle. I definitely give him an E5. He should have had that jump, get up there,
we can't go a little home scoring. Give our guy a hit there. Bump the averages a little bit for the scouts.
I mean, you got to tell me if you need me to be a gamer. Then let's switch that to a hit.
Error goes against DeFazio. Just his second start of the season came a little bit later from Houston Baptist, and the Stompers are set up to grab a lead, and Cam Hegeman takes a slider just outside. I guess I have a baseball interest journalist question for you. Those midseason trades are always interesting on both sides of it. What was it like seeing Hunter Pence come to that locker room midway through the season? But I guess as a reporter, you're probably more connected on the guys that are leaving.
Yeah.
What are the emotions like on what is now July 31st, that deadline day in the clubhouse?
So Hunter Pence specifically, it was really interesting because our broadcast was getting really popular because they had 1 and 10, right? And then 11, they had a really good shot, but Buster got injured.
Yeah.
But that's when Brandon Crawford joined the team. And so you really saw the parts coming together. So we kind of laid out the red carpet for Hunter Pence from the broadcast perspective. We all stayed late because he came in late that night. So we had a game. We stayed late. We met him at his car. It was like kind of one of the first, behind the scenes all access, and brought him straight in to an interview with me. So that was exciting, right? From a journalist standpoint, the show that we were putting on. I mean, it was a production to get Hunter Pence. But yeah, to your point, you build these relationships, and that's why it's so important. Like my best piece of advice, especially to women wanting to go into reporting for a sport, is to always have a very professional relationship with them. And it's fine to, ask personal questions about how's your family, how are your kids. You're going to meet these people in the course of your time there. But
those are the free bases the Stompers love so much. They move to second and third now with 2 outs.
I mean, that's a big 90 feet right there, right? So that's when this fella, I don't know who it is, but he needs to capitalize on the situation. Number 46.
Exactly. Esteban Sepulveda, the Stomper catcher, up now with second and third and 2 outs.
So just to finish my thought, it's just really important because players will come and go in your lives. And so you want to build a relationship, but you don't want to get too attached. And that's kind of the key. And what you find is they come back into your life at some point, if you're around long enough. Ooh.
Sepulveda takes a nice little slider that clips the outside corner. And now the Stompers and Sepulveda need to battle in a 2-strike count, something that they've done well. They pride themselves in a little pesky
This would be a good situational hitting right here.
1-2. Sepulveda's fooled on the fastball, and the inning is over, and our time with Amy G in the booth is over. But Amy, thank you so much for taking the time and staying an extra half inning.
You're I'm gonna have to say I knew you win.
Thank you so much. That means so much coming from you.